Thanks for bringing that. Yeah. All right. So thank you all for coming. I am Brian Wright. I'm the principal of Town Planning and Urban Design Collaborative and leading a team to help you all move your zoning ordinance forward and update it. Can you hear me now? I can talk. I know.
With me, Joy.
Well, yeah, why don't you come sit next to me?
Well, I want to hear what everybody says.
Oh, we got a microphone there. Let's do that. Let's see how that works. That might help with your recording too.
I say that if I can get a battery.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I got out tonight, which I don't usually do.
All right, I'll do my best to talk loud. And I'm not going to be talking much, so that means the rest of y'all are going to have to talk loud. So we had a meeting earlier today, and we talked about housing and neighborhood character, and got some, thank you. We got some good feedback. There we go. All right. Hopefully we won't have any feedback from this microphone. And during that meeting, we talked about all sorts of things. The conversation wanders as it is intended to. This is an informal discussion. We have a heading or a title for the meeting to sort of guide people here, and so they know, oh, I want to talk about this thing or that thing. But if we start, next thing you know, we're talking about I don't know, open space or something. Don't get frustrated by that, but feel free to bring us back and say, hey, what about that infill? So we're talking about infill and redevelopment. And we like to start off by everybody going around and introducing themselves and saying if you're representing an organization or something like that, or not, that's okay too. But it's good to know who everybody is. So.
Melanie Long, I live downtown Loganville. I own a business here and I'm on city council. Hattie Poole. I guess I live kind of downtown, but anyway, I don't even know where I live. On city council.
John Sosby, I live over here on Fair Street and I also own an auto repair shop over here.
Can you pass it back real quick?
I didn't see you back. Didn't mean to skip you.
No worries. Jay Wright, I live just outside the city limits, but I have either lived in or been around the city since 2001. So I got vested interest in this too.
Can you pass it back to Lee there? Yeah.
I'm Lee Phillips. I live at 4421 Pecan Street, Loganville, and we are the only registered historical landmark property in Loganville.
Wouldn't this be so much more fun if we could carry on here? I am Oh, well, we go. You want to introduce?
He works.
I'm the other one.
Kim Pecklock, I live in Tara, and I represent a family of my grandchildren. I think is really what I represent.
My name is Phil Griffin. I live off of Leeburg Road behind the old primary school behind the Bay Creek.
Kay Griffin, and I live with Phil.
Well, I'm Joyce Bryson Davis, and I live with my son in the historical house that we are restoring at this time. Y'all probably know. And I'm fundraising, and I just got my novel that I wrote, A Story Told, published, and I'm using it. If you would give me $15 or more, I'll give you my book, and it's signed. And I'm just glad to be here.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Leanne Vaughn. We live on Logan Drive, and we also have a property on Perry Street, both in the city limits.
Oh, then Leanne.
Keith Colquitt, City Council, live on the Huntington Ridge subdivision.
Rick Colquitt, and I live with him.
I'm Annette Dodd. I'm right outside of the city limits, but I've been here since '96, and my mom, of course, is invested in the city a lot.
I've been here since, my name is Linda Dodd, and I've been here since '96, and I was on council for 8 years, and now I'm on planning and zoning commission.
I'm Marie Garrett. I live here in the city of Cotton State. 811 TPUDC.
You heard that?
Ronnie Schwartz, Director of Planning and Development, City of Loganville.
Right, thank you. Okay, so, what do we need to know about infill? Sounds like you have one property on the historic register here, so everything else is up for grabs, I guess. Infill anywhere?
Grab it and go.
No.
No.
Okay. No, all right. So maybe first let's talk about, in case anybody's wondering, what is infill or redevelopment? It may seem self-evident, but there's a couple of different types that we see. We see often infill in a downtown area. And it looks like you guys have a relatively recent example of that on your little Main Street area there. And then, so, you know, the downtown areas often have infill happen first. But then there's also what we call suburban retrofit. And that's kind of like on a sort of automobile oriented strip highway, where people start to infill in parking lots, or in some ways maybe the earliest examples of it were when you have a big box building and they have those kind of out parcels out front of them, and then you'll start to see some little, you know, fast food this pop up, like whatever. And I'm not sure if it's in Loganville or not, because it's hard to tell when we've left and when we've entered, but on the way here from the hotel that we're staying at, we passed, it looks like a new building. It's got like the tie-back wrapped around it. It's like 2 stories. There's only a door on it right now. I assume there's gonna be windows and
That's been
things.
like that for like 3 years.
Okay, what is it?
We don't have a.
Oh, yeah, it's supposed to, it was a coffee shop to begin with. The
Okay.
person walked away because he ran out of money.
Okay, interesting. So that would have been an example of suburban retrofit.
We don't want that.
You want to have your ducks in a row before you start building. And unless it's one of those special places that doesn't have any signage and you have to be on the end to know that it's there and knock on the door a certain way and then you get your coffee. So it's speakeasy, I guess. So anyway, so that's kind of what we mean when we talk about infill or retrofit. So anybody have any thoughts about, this meeting's better attended than the last one. So what brought you all out tonight? Who wants to go first?
I'll take it out of you.
Go for it.
I want to know what the future plans are for Loganville. You know, we're sitting here making rules and regulations that the council is going to have to uphold. And that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
You know, I'm vested in my community. I've been here 26 years. I'm sorry, 23 years. My business is here in town. My customers are here in town. Let's find some solutions.
Yeah. What would you like to see for infill or retrofit? What does the future look like to you?
Mainly using the acreage that the city already owns to infill. You know, not only downtown, but I want to see everything. I want to see the roads wider. Go down Fair Street past a UPS truck.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. I want to see the brush out of the ditches that the power company or the AT&T cut and left laying there that scratches the side of your car when you drive by. You know, you've got the east side of town over here. If you go over to the big park with the pond, that seems to get all the attention when that side or west side of town over here doesn't get any. We can't even get the ditches cleaned over there. And I volunteered and picked up trash, 15 different times over there, walking the street, just picking it up. So I'd like to see Loganville grow. I'd like to see it infill properly. I'm tired of being a pass-through and not a destination, because we are a pass-through. All we are is 3 different interstates or 3 different highway streets that come through here, and people throw out their trash on the way to somewhere else. And it's too bad you don't have somebody working for DOT that you could bring in and help us out with that.
Yeah, well, you know, the destination part we can help with, becoming a destination. And the way that you do that is by becoming a place that people want to stop and want to be. And, and you all may hear that and you go, well, why do you think we're here? Of course. Yeah. Well, to your point, not everybody is thinking the same way. And so how do we, make some changes? How do we transform some things to make it a place where people want to stop or need to stop? And, but it doesn't make y'all's life worse as a result.
Yeah.
Right. Because a lot of times we assume that growth makes things worse. And so we need to work hard to make sure that that isn't the case. So there is also a myth that you guys are built out. People keep telling me there's no land left in town. And I'm here to tell you there is land left in town. It's not obvious necessarily where it is, but if you see trees,
they'll be cut down.
Protected. It's not like that forest is not in some sort of a protected town forest, right? And so it sounds, based on what I've heard from people so far, that you guys would like to keep some of those trees as we move forward. And so I don't say that to say like, oh, let's target the trees for infill. I'd much rather, take on a bad oversized suburban parking lot. But on the other hand, if you're going to keep those trees, then we have to have rules and regulations in place to make sure that that happens.
We've already paid for a study for a tree ordinance.
Yes, I heard about that.
And it got squashed.
I heard about that. Yes. It sounded like maybe my understanding is there were two different things combined in the ordinance. One was, what is a private property owner? What can they do with their trees? And then there's what can a developer do with the trees that are on the property that they're going to develop? And maybe the consideration for the private property owner was of concern, which it is in a lot of places. And then the development portion of it also, when it was not moved forward, went by the wayside as well. So it's not hard to resurrect that and to incorporate it. And so far, I've heard probably unanimously that everybody is not in favor of clear cutting for development. So,
well, here's the other issue I have is my wife was on planning and zoning for quite a few years.
Can't hear you.
My wife was on, I'm sorry. My wife was on planning and zoning for quite a few years. The rules that were set for the conditions that were set for the developers. And Freddie's over here, the fast food drive-through, beautiful tree out back, beautiful. It was in the code they'd written in planning and zoning. But when it went before city council, it didn't get transferred. So guess what the first thing they cut down was?
It was
The big old beautiful
Right in front of our yard, and we watched it every year.
And I mean, they lopped it off, right? That was the first thing that went down. So what we have is, we don't have any between planning and zoning and the city council, and then nobody going out checking these developers.
Only
At
takes
all.
5 minutes and it's too late.
He should have had to replant a tree the same size as the one he cut down, because it was in the planning and zoning rules, when it was passed to council, but council never put it in the rules.
Yeah, I wasn't on there then. It was the previous council, but they dropped the ball.
Yeah.
They dropped the ball.
And they dropped it, well, I'm sorry, the current council hasn't had a chance to do anything yet. But all the previous councils, planning and zoning means nothing. They're just a front to take the heat, to see how many people are going to show up at the meetings. The council doesn't take their recommendations. That's why my wife was frustrated with it. She resigned.
well, one thing I'll say, that's a sad story about that tree. You might argue also that equally sad is, I don't know. I mean, Freddie's, kind of the whole
I'd rather have the
situation
tree.
up there with Freddie's, right? So you got a double whammy. right?
Actually, no, the
You
tree
got
was
that
right
ugly
there.
You got that ugly
Yeah, the tree was actually against the back of the property line. where all their parking is. They could have
Tree
left
could have
it.
stayed.
No
Oh,
issue.
I'm not saying they couldn't save it. I'm just saying they didn't hand you out of Freddy's.
Yeah, and we
Like
have
double
a,
plan.
you know,
That
that
you had
immediate
access to
detention
the,
fund.
The tree zoning or the tree, whatever. So
Yes.
that could be incorporated at least with big developments, I suppose.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean,
Sure.
until the city gets
So
the
we-
leaf truck, I may decide to cut my trees down.
Again, when P and Z sends stuff over to the council, we're gonna have to watch for those conditions and make sure that they're upheld.
If this is written right,
Well,
we're not gonna have to worry about.
If we
putting
agree
any
to
conditions.
it, see, council has the authority to not, agree to
True.
what P and Z does, but yes, we need to at least look at it.
Yes.
Well, just make a statement about the trees. If the tree's cut down, it needs to be replaced. Because if the trees are down and the roots die, there's nothing in the ground to hold the soil. And we're not sitting on flat ground. We're, like more downhill if there's nothing there to hold it. So that's all I want to say about trees. Trees are important to breathe. So here's what that I want to add as far as what I would like to see. Living right here in the town area. It is so sad to see me and other people having to walk on the streets where the cars are. We have no sidewalks. I use a city rider to be able to go where I need to on this side of 78, not allowed on me across 78, it's too dangerous. But I have to ride in the streets. Even some of the sidewalks on 78 when I'm going to Lowe's or where are in such bad condition that my city rider almost hopped over a couple of times and I have to go over in the grass area, which city riders are not supposed to do, to be able to move on the sidewalk. But if there's a sidewalk and you're not on it, you're disobeying the law because you have to be on the sidewalk. Okay, so that's one thing. We don't have sidewalks. We did have somebody got run over on Covington one time, having to walk on the street. That was quite a while back. Y'all probably wasn't born. This area now that we have the library there, this other area, I would think that we would need to have some kind of mini mall buildings that complement our town to be built there so that our town would be able to get some revenue and take this hardness taxes off of our homeowners. I own my home outright, but I still pay tax. And so we need revenue in this town. If you don't have revenue, you can have all the people that you want, and all it's doing is costing to keep up everything because they're living their life. So I recommend that we have more business, small businesses, and take the back end of the Con Street that to me should never have been put with 254, whatever the number is. It should have never been added on because it was not Main Street, it was Pecan Street that the city bought from people that wanted to move away. But if we took that, it has beautiful pecan trees, beautiful grass that's kept up by the city, and it would make a beautiful little park area for people to go and whatever that we could do to make it, like everything else. But we got to have some buildings, even if they have to go on Pecan Street. We need businesses to bring in revenue. We need businesses to bring in people. How can you go to a restaurant to eat if you don't, there's no place you want to shop? And these restaurants are opening up on Main Street, but where's the people gonna come from? There's nothing here for them to buy. You know, we need to get busy and get people coming in here that will bring a business that other people won't. And so I guess that's my 2 cents worth.
Thank you.
Just to piggyback on that, I absolutely agree. We need sidewalks. To everything you were saying, you can bring the businesses in and you don't have a way to connect the businesses, through other means than automobiles. You're just, exasperating the problem. So, businesses in where they make sense, I don't have an opinion. I mean, I think that Goodwill, Ingalls parking lot is a huge opportunity, but, I don't know where to put everything, but, the other thing is bike paths. If we can get, just more opportunities to get from place to place without having to drive and park and all that, I think that would be hugely valuable.
Yeah, one of the things that's good too, when you've got, development going on, as long as you require it, developers can put in sidewalks and bike paths and those sorts of things. A lot of communities that we work in, they don't require, I don't know what you guys do, but they don't require sidewalks or street trees or anything in the new developments. But everybody's saying we want to be more walkable, and even the people moving into the neighborhood. And so I would just wonder why people don't just require that, because most places these days do. And I think a lot of it is just that when the ordinances were written, originally it was at a time when the community wasn't as prosperous. And so they were just happy to have any new development. And so they just said, okay, please build the house. We don't care. And the developers have gotten quite used to that in many places around the country.
Well, we can fix that with these.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the planning, I'm sorry, go ahead, Lisa.
Say currently our ordinances do require development, when they build a neighborhood to finish out the sidewalk in front of their property in the front of the neighborhood.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily have to connect, but that's the
Oh,
dream.
does it
is
go
long
into the
term on
neighborhood just along the road that they're attaching to?
Yes.
That's a step.
And here lately with some of the planning and zoning, before I came off and got elected on the council, we were trying to put conditions into those developments to have the walkability within there. So we were trying to get them in there, even though they're not required under the regs in the building reg. So, we were trying, but if we can get them into the building regs and into the ordinances, that'd be a big step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Is it just residential that you focus on when you say that? Because
Well, that's what we had here lately was mostly residential. And I don't think, Robbie, we've had.
Okay, good.
So, and they're required now within the residential developments, and commercial.
Good.
So they're working
So
on
now
it.
if we just have a better design, we can connect them.
True.
Yeah, you know,
Trails
and
or
the money
something
to
like
build
that
it,
to connect.
and the money to build it.
Well,
Because
that
we're broke.
presumably is coming in from the businesses we're going to attract because we got this great big beautiful plan.
But what we would probably do is, streetscape requirement inside these developments. An area we could improve was the streetscape inside these developments.
Can't hear. I said,
Lisa.
An area we could improve is the streetscape requirements, some kind of a streetscape plan within these developments, rather than just sod and a sidewalk.
I want to piggyback on what John said about planning and zoning. It does get very frustrating for us, because I'm planning and zoning now, and it does get very frustrating. When you're on planning and zoning and these developers come in and you tell them, you want them to require them to do certain things, and they say, okay, and they are willing to do those things. Then they go in front of council, and council wants, well, this is great, but then we want you to do this and this and this. And this has happened, and y'all know this.
Oh, it absolutely happened.
Okay, so then the council says, oh, well, we want you to do this, this, this. So the developer says, okay. So they come back and they say, okay, you're doing this and this and this and this. Then the council says, now I want you to do this. Well, it's adding up money every time these developers do this.
Yeah.
Okay, then they've done everything by the letter, by the book, what the council has asked them to do, and guess what? It gets voted down.
Voted down?
Voted down.
What projects that can you think of?
Oh, okay, well, I can name them for you. One for, and this was the mayor's fault. He's the one that voted down the Twin Lakes thing. He was a tie, 3-3. He voted down. I'm still mad at him.
So what? Say it again.
We're Twin Lakes.
Twin Lakes.
You're still mad.
So then we're talking about here on 9th Street, where the church was at.
Okay.
Okay, so that property, guy came in, agreed to do. What happened? Got turned down. Then on Pecan Street, where,
He had a lot of green space. That he was
yes, and he had a lot of green space, and the church was big that they were going to be there. Then on Pecan Street, where all that land was, and they were going to make it walkable to go to Bojangles, to go to Chicken Salad Chick, to go all that strip mall right there. Guess what? It got voted down.
Well, why? Why would they turn down?
Because there were members on the council that didn't want to see that. And I'm just saying,
There's got to be more than that.
There's a lot more to it. There's a lot more. But this isn't the time or place for
Yeah, we're
that.
getting off track.
Exactly. Let's get back to this.
I was trying to see.
Okay, so
Maybe it doesn't work where we're going. So instead of saying, we're gonna volley this back and forth, but like, okay, this is something that maybe just doesn't work for us.
So when I hear stories like this, I go, okay, well, what does the ordinance say? Does the ordinance say we're going to determine what the developer can do in the midst of a hearing? Or does it say, here are the rules and regulations that they have to follow? Because unless somebody's doing like a planned unit development or whatever you guys have here. Do you guys have PUDs?
Yes, we do.
So unless somebody's doing a PUD, it typically wouldn't be a discussion.
Rezoning requests. is
So
what it is.
rezoning, right? Okay, so in that case, they need something, they want something. If there's a bunch of rezoning requests, then that also is an indication to us that either there's a problem with the zoning, or, and it doesn't mean that the zoning is necessarily wrong, it could just mean that what the developers want to do is not what the city wants to do, and then that's a whole other thing to discuss, so we're figuring that out as we go. But nonetheless, as we go through this, we've got to figure out kind of how to get you guys on the same sheet of music so that what one entity is saying is the same as the other. So developers know that no means no or yes means yes and all that, and it'll be less frustrating for everybody. So.
Well, hang on.
Sorry.
Oh, here, go ahead. Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, how does this retrofit?
But I do want to say that we realized that we have some very loose ordinances and we were just attracting anything and everything. And we also realized that what was being presented, saying we're going to build this great development, was not what we were seeing was actually coming out of the ground, but that's because we have loose ordinances. It's a lot of the reason why we're sitting here tonight. To build, whatever we're going to build, we're going to make sure we're building better. We're going to fix our ordinances.
Got it.
I agree with that.
Problem solved. We're here to help.
Because to your point about why we're seeing so many rezones. So part of the things that got turned down is you had industrial property being asked to be rezoned to residential. You had residential property being asked to zone commercial, and it didn't necessarily fit with our comprehensive plan. It didn't fit with the neighborhood, it didn't fit with the community. And the developer, like Lisa said, you started seeing what the developer had built, and he came back now and he didn't build what he promised the first time. Yeah, you gotta kind of put the brakes on stuff. That's why we put a moratorium on, that's why we hired you. We want to fix this so that when a developer comes to Loganville and they're like, okay, well, there's 3 acres over there and this is what I want to build. When he looks at our ordinance now, he's like, yeah, no, I'm not the developer for that because that doesn't fit into what I do. That's not in my. So that's what we're trying to avoid moving forward, so that we don't keep doing all the run back and forth.
I have a completely different perspective.
I understand and I agree about build better.
But, I'm one of the ones that got turned down this past year. And I think the guy that was coming in to develop mine had some really good ideas as far as widening the buffer that the zoning, we were trying to rezone. I have 10 acres right here on the old airstrip.
Told you weren't built out.
These are the property that somebody over here already brought up, right? The church.
Probably.
Yeah.
But
Near there.
it was like everything was thrown out with bathwater sort of thing. There was one development that came in that was really bad. But the person that, and honestly, I had interviewed them before they even presented, because I checked with all of my neighbors before we even brought it forward. So, it was turned down, but I think with the whole rezoning rewrite in place or coming up. So, I mean, I get it. I'm trying to be patient, but what I'm afraid of is I'm gonna be locked in. I can't manage the 10 acres anymore. I'm gonna sell it. And I'm trying to find the best person to come in there and do it so that I'm happy still living here and my neighbors are happy. And it's in walking distance of everything downtown. So that would help, maybe get the church, congregation back up and the businesses down here going again. And if we get enough young people in here, maybe other young people will come in. Cause this old lady don't do nothing. I can sit on my porch and hear the music downtown. So that's what I'm afraid of.
I think the best use of your 10 acres over there would actually be a green space with the city purchasing it, making it a green space with walking trails through there, and preserve some of the nature and the big trees.
Well, one of the things we've had, and it's been several years, but I've had homeless people down in there.
Because I get all the Sudafed packages
So
over
that
on
hap-
Fair
that
Street.
happens.
Cooking meth back there.
And like I said, I'm also looking for people to be able to walk downtown and to bring some life downtown, because the older communities, people aren't dying off fast enough for the young people to come in and rebuild the houses, to be honest. But I mean, and also, I mean, if the city's able to, come up with a similar offer like my developer is, sure.
You guys.
I was gonna say, I just would commend you because we're all in this together. It's your property. You want to sell it and you want to make sure it's good with your neighbors and you want to work with the city. So I commend you for that. We recently went through the same thing with a property owner off of Chandler Walk that wanted to sell their property, but they were very mindful of working with us as well as working with their neighbors to make sure everything was a good fit for everybody involved. So I commend you.
Yeah.
We're all in this together.
I'm trying.
Especially if you're planning on staying there after you
I
sell
am,
it.
yeah.
I was just gonna say, if you guys have ever been to the Beltline, go to the Pond City Market, and do the Beltline in Atlanta. It started, it was Georgia Tech down there. They planned it, they built a little section, and then the buildings infill. The businesses came, they built another little section, and now you can walk all over, and it is just crazy. I mean, people are there all weekend, all the time. So it's
In a good way.
But we're in a catch-22. Yes, it is. It's a fun time because most people are riding bikes, scooters, skates, and stuff like that, music. I realize we're in a catch-22 situation, though, it seems that we don't have any money, can't build the sidewalk. So I guess we have to attract some businesses first in order to get some money, build some sidewalks. I'm hearing that because I've been a proponent, just as you, for sidewalks, because we walk, most of us, you see us walking around town, and we got grandkids now, and we'd like to bring them to this little park over here. But I think connecting things like Peachtree City, that's all connected with paths, connecting these subdivisions so that they can get to certain places is a key. I don't know how you do it all, but.
What is our? I just want to say that the code concerning sidewalks need to all be where there's a slant down to the street and not just straight down. We have a lot of elderly people in this town that are walking on walkers and rolling like me and cannot get off of a sidewalk when there's no way to get off of it. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and one of the other things we want, can you pass it back? You're trying to say something, aren't you? One of the other things we want rolling around is strollers. Right? If you have plenty of people with
Wagons.
walkers and scooters and that kind of stuff, you also need people with strollers because otherwise you go extinct.
Right.
So,
I was just, didn't you guys enact something with sidewalks when you introduced it?
We
thought
we
We have a grant
We
that's
put,
out.
put in for a grant, but the grant's coming down Lee Bird, the sidewalk and going behind or in front of, no,
It'll
in
connect
front of
the
the high
high school
school.
stadium to the Bay Creek Elementary School. And I believe, Robbie, am I mistaken, in that the city's part, if we get the grant, is $5 million?
Yes,
That's 20%, so whatever that end up
Yeah.
dollar amount is.
that's $5 million, just the city's part.
And that's to let y'all know how expensive
Definitely.
sidewalks
I
are.
can't tell you how many, my son lives on the other side, how many times I come and you see people are walking in the street at dark, you don't see them until, that definitely has to.
Well, I'll just say, I go down roads that do have sidewalks and they're still walking in the
Oh, that's-
street, so, I mean, come on.
Well,
Yeah.
though.
well, you end up, that's the main place you can walk in the street.
About sidewalks, but what about roads? Because like, there's a lot of small side roads. And that I know, I've seen a lot of people walking on. Now, obviously, there's no sidewalks there, but with the influx of houses and residential buildings for homes and for lack of better words, because they are rentals, we're gonna have more cars coming in and more subdivisions being built, which is what I'm seeing. What are we doing with the construction for roads? Because we came from Sugar Hill and we left Sugar Hill because of the amount of construction that was there. And we wanted small town. So I'm seeing more development happening and I'm not sure we're willing to keep up with pace here either. So what's the plan for that?
My best. Right now, a lot of the roads that you're talking about are the roads that have existed for a really, really long time. And for us to widen, say, Lion Street, which is a fan favorite over here, or Fair Street, either one of those, you're right, land acquisition. It's not just, we have easements, but we don't own the land, so we can't expand the road. And then to expand a road, or even just to build a road, council members, help me remember, what was it? How much was it per mile?
For what? Just to do
For
the
roads.
Dollar amount per mile.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Remember, there one being for a road, I remember we did sidewalks.
Let's say it's tens of thousands of dollars per half mile. We do, so we allocate, our SLOSS allocations are determined by the mayor and city council. And we do allocate some money, but the truth is, especially in our city center, because all these roads are so old, we try to we choose projects where we get the most bang for our buck, so we can get the most mileage out of every tax dollar. So we take sometimes, and the other part of it is also based on the grading scale. So the terrain of the road, we follow the same standards that GDOT does to determine which roads need to be repaved. So there are different mechanisms, but obviously the city council, when we discussed this, it's like we could have $100 million in our pocket and still not have enough for all the sidewalks we need.
But
Yeah.
if we infill and we get
Yeah.
developed, we build it, then, I mean,
And
this is where the zoning works,
a
right?
lot of the sidewalks in the city were built by the business. So we're to the point now where, like, Melanie had some houses that were being proposed by her house. And we were like, they have to put sidewalks. They're like, well, why don't I put sidewalks? There's no other sidewalks. We gotta start somewhere. We want to build, we want sidewalks.
And look at 20 just down by the old library, what that's costing the city, and it's a GDOT project. I mean, it's like multi-million dollars to move the wiring and the piping and all that kind of stuff.
The good thing about GDOT is they're gonna build the sidewalks.
We can clean it out.
So one of the things, one of the things you'll need to make sure you don't ever do is make fun of sidewalks to nowhere, right? That's what we over here, like, there's a sidewalk and it goes nowhere. And it's like, I know, it's the first section. The second section will be taking you to somewhere. So, okay, so when we're talking about things like these connections and things, it is relevant to infill insofar as when you are wanting infill to occur, it's important that you have investment in that area. And so otherwise, why is somebody going to be willing to do something with their property? You know, and then they'll just wait for it till they have to maintain it. There's nothing, you know, they're not doing it any sooner than they absolutely have to. And then they're only doing the bare minimum of what they have to do. And so if, for instance, you're wanting to make a place walkable or whatever, there are things that cities do to enhance that or encourage that. So for instance, your grant, you know, and so with those grants, hopefully there's, you know, you go, okay, well, where are we going to put those sidewalks? And go like, oh, well, here's an area we want to have redevelopment occur. You know, here's an area that's been in need of it for a really long time, so they get it too, and whatever. What's the main revenue source for the city? Is it sales tax?
Property,
tax.
Property tax. Okay.
like 9 million.
Okay.
That's our only revenue. We get a little bit off of water, we get a little bit off of the garbage.
Well, we get sales tax.
Yeah, but you have
But we get the enterprise fund, yeah, the water.
I think it's
So-
time for Gwinnett to start stepping up and paying for their part of the city too. I
Have
don't
you
think we
guys-
get enough money out of Gwinnett.
Have y'all done the math to see, like, you know, in this discussion about, you know, do we have large estate homes versus smaller homes, or, you know, like, have y'all done the math to see, is it?
We've got more rental property than any place I've ever
I'm
seen.
not
in
talking
my
about rental, I'm talking about for sale. Is
Are you
it-
talking about
is
how
it-
much property tax they
Yeah,
bring?
the estate home is gonna give you more than if you took that same lot and divided it into 5 pieces,
Right.
or, you know, is it, you know, that's kind of,
Well,
it
I
seems
know
like a
the-
math problem.
The tap fees of what the city goes after more probably than the property tax. I'm just saying, I don't know that. Danny would be the one to answer that, but tap fees bring in a lot of
Yeah.
money. So the more houses, the more tap fees. And so I think from a city
Yeah,
perspective,
they push
they,
a
yeah,
higher density.
Yeah.
They want the tap fees.
Well, and these are the things that we'll need to kind of make sure we understand as we start making decisions about, you know, we are making decisions about what we're trying to incentivize and encourage or require to happen. For instance, the point about the, you know, you said make your land a park. And it wasn't like donate your land to make it a park, it was sell it and make it a park.
Yeah, I'm not talking about you.
But
Monroe just did it.
Kill me.
yes, yeah, but then you said, however, if we get people there, it has a benefit to the downtown, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, so there is a cost benefit analysis beyond just the dollars and cents and all of that stuff.
I just find that downtown like here is pretty much dead on the weekends. I mean, there's some traffic coming in, but if you leave out at about 8 o'clock at night or something, it's kind of like, ooh, I can make a right or left hand turn here. Yeah. And being here for so long, I know how to get around.
Yeah.
And houses would bring in more property tax.
Well, if you stop with the storage units
Exactly.
and put a moratorium on storage units because they don't pay sales tax.
wow.
Wait, storage units don't pay sales tax, you said?
They don't pay, they pay property tax, but they don't pay sales tax. Or am I wrong, Robbie?
Okay, I'm sorry, what's the question?
Storage units, do they pay
Sales tax.
sales tax on those storage units? Or is it just property tax?
Well, we don't collect sales state. But yeah, the property taxes come to us, but yes, sales tax are generated on their monthly. Like,
I don't
we-
get charged that on my bill.
I don't get that charged on my money.
It's probably incorporated into
Your
it,
rent,
but
yeah.
a lot of the places will sit there and say, all right, it's easier for me to come to you and say, hey, you can rent this for $25 a month than me for to sit there and say, well, it's $25 a month plus tax. So you-
Well, it's
mentally,
included, it's
yeah,
just-
mentally, it's just easier for them to eat some of those costs, especially.
It's like someone that rents a residential home, they don't tell the person it's gonna cost you this much in rent, this much in property tax, you know, that your rent is this much and it covers everything. But they, one way or another, they're gonna pay. It's not free.
So what was I gonna say? Over the years, and like I've owned for 55 years in Loganville. over the years, I have met many people who came to this town because they could buy a house, or just a regular house, medium-sized house, with a yard. And a lot of these people, they were raised and came from the cities. Like me, I'm an Atlanta girl. So that's what drew me here, with the exception of God telling me to come and gave me the house. And he's got more plans for this town than we can even describe. So people want a piece of land with a house and a yard that they can get out and cut their grass or lay in it or whatever, they make a garden or whatever that their desire is. This was the town that people, the car place advertised, where's Loganville? I had a daughter that lived in Texas that was so homesick, and the only thing that would help her was when she heard in Texas an advertisement that said, where's Loganville? And people come here because they want a small town, not like what's happened all around, because we're not a city, we're not a big town with a lot of stuff to put in. People want a small town with a yard, some trees, flowers, bushes, a tomato plant or whatever. I got collards, kale, spinach growing right now. Y'all can come to my house and get some. Who's next?
Well, I'll plug one last plug for me. You know, I'm sidewalks and parks and things like that, green space, but I also like art, sculptures, statues, things maybe historical, or maybe the historical society can come up with some things that we could put in certain places of the city so people could just understand, you know, even a placard and understand what, you know, the railroad here, you know, this was, you know, Cotton Town a long time ago, that kind of thing. I don't know, just something I wanted to plug.
Yeah, that's one thing that Monroe has done a lot,
Yeah,
really
they
good
do.
of, you know, promoting the arts.
There's
and
a
all
young
that.
man, his name is Curran Busser.
Yeah.
He's going for his Eagle Scout.
Yeah.
His project was, he actually put 3 placards up. So if you'll go between the rock gym and the ag building, incredible placard. He put one at the well.
Yeah.
And he put one at the gazebo down there, and he's done them. The Historical Society has got some things on the horizon that they're working on. But the young man, Mr. Musser, he's gonna be at one of our next council meetings to talk about what he did, but he's got 5 more properties that he wants to do them. So he is doing them, and I like that as well. But yeah, he's got one for the railroad. He's got 'em.
Accessible.
The ones that have to have their own private property, we had a hiccup with, but the ones on city property, you'll find 3. So I would encourage y'all all to go look at them.
And there might be artists willing to do things
Let's
too.
put train tracks back in.
Yeah.
Bring a couple old box cars in and
Exactly.
rent them out as restaurants.
All brand.
One thing that I have heard mentioned sidewalks is historic preservation, because I know we've got a lot of older houses that are within here in the downtown area. And do we have any standards for that, for historical preservation? Do we have anything in the ordinances about, I can't remember, there's a certificate you have to have for, and since you guys do a lot of zoning, you know what I'm talking, where it's if you're gonna change like something that's historical preservation, you have to put in for a change of.
We only have one house.
Yeah.
I know we only have one.
But there are a lot of older homes.
Actually,
That are gorgeous old homes.
Something like it's caught my eye is over on Floyd and Cott, where there was a little house on the corner, been there forever, went down. Somebody bought it, they rehabbed it, and now it's a commercial operation, you know, but I can't remember if it's amazing. I used to drive by there, but I don't think it for a while, so I don't drive by all the time. But like right through there on CS Floyd, we've got businesses that are in older houses, which, you know, to me, that kind of goes against historical preservation, because those were nice houses, but now they're in business. So I don't know if we need to, that's something we need to think about, for the future. If, you know, you want to attract people to move in, it's like, hey, we got a really nice historical area. And I think Monroe has that, like right around their downtown where you've got some.
They definitely do. They even do it with their trees. They go
Right.
so far as to protect.
Right, and think about like trees, and that's, you know, you can require, like in new subdivisions with that. I have a friend of mine who's, the head of planning for Cobb County, and he had told me about their tree ordinance. And he was their certified arborist, and his job was to literally drive out to new subdivisions and count trees. I used to tease him about it, being the tree police, but he would go out and and the other thing is like, he would make people, like if they put in trees that were not allowed, like let's say Bradford pears, which Bradford pears that's a terrible tree. You know, they've grown 20 years, they fall down, they crack, whatever. He would go and make them get rid of them and plant something else, like oak or whatever.
The tree ordinance that some of the others in their infinite wisdom threw out.
Right.
It did that. You could only plant certain ones. They had to be, you got credit for how many inches and.
Right, and that's something that needs to, I think.
It needs to be brought back.
In this, since this is the whole idea of this ordinance thing, is to, let's incorporate that back into, and that I think goes to infill, where, you know, we're gonna like rehab properties. Let's say, okay, you got this new, you need to plant whatever and include it in your buffer, and just kind of look at that from a, I hate to use the word holistic, but I think that's kind of the word we need to use for that.
We don't have anything in our ordinances about historical preservation.
We don't.
We need it.
Well, this is one of those, be careful what you ask for.
Oh, really?
I did a lot of work with, Habitat for Humanity in the prior life.
For you.
And we would get houses donated, and we wouldn't accept them that had this, but it's not because it's not the right thing to do in terms of like, you want to preserve, it's just the ordinance went too far and you couldn't sell them. We're stuck with that house forever. So it just be careful. Exactly. You have to look at it, you know, eyes wide open and say, if I were to buy this house, what would it, you know, but I agree with the sentiment. I just be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people won't allow their houses to be designated in historic register.
I won't be. I've got my house built, I think the best we can find out is 1904. I don't want it on the historic registry. I want to be able to paint it any color I want to paint it. I want to be able to update it, change it. My wife's boss, my wife's boss came out with the best thing. He looked there and said, darling, if you want a plaque that says your home's historic, he'll get you one printed. Then you can do anything you want to with your house.
You were mentioning infill at I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we're here to talk about what zoning, right? And it's infill, and these are all great ideas. And is the plan to like zone some of these areas so that we can entice buildings and businesses to come in? There's a couple of buildings that I thought were really cool. We went to Napa, I don't know how long ago. Napa it's a big square building, and they had a restaurant on either end. Inside the middle was candles, butcher, all kinds of interesting, eclectic stuff. That was a cool building.
Oxbow Market?
Yes, Oxbow Market. That was cool. Now, Frog Street Market downtown Atlanta is kind of similar. It's got, a little bar at one end and about 10 different things of food. And they're just doing that in Snellville now. There's a building there. But they're cool places. I mean, and they don't take a lot of space. The reason they're cool is everybody can come and, hey, I want Chinese, I want this, I want that. You gather and you eat. They're pretty social. So how do we get something like that to come to us? I'm not talking about fast food here. I'm talking about one thing that you could have a few people inside. So
so it's referred to as a food hall.
Yeah,
that's what we call it.
Yeah.
But what they're doing is allowing, like, I feel bad even saying this, but once they don't succeed with these large conglomerates, it allows for the small businesses to actually come in and purchase. because of the fact that they don't succeed, they're gonna eventually have to sell, right? And so at some point, a small business is gonna have to go in and take over. Hopefully, the town will back them because they live here as opposed to out of our city. I mean, that's I mean, that's what I think. I mean, I'm originally from Miami, and being from Miami, we see businesses shut down in less than a year there. Here, I mean, the Thirsty Moose in downtown Monroe closed in, I guess, a year, 2 years. There was also the other one on the corner there. It closed down after 2 years of being open. Have you seen what that building is being sold for? 1.5 billion, or million, sorry. That's a lot. Can you imagine the rent in that place? So, I mean, I think also it takes into account that a lot of the people that live in Loganville, and I'm not trying to reference age or anything of the matter. I love the younger generation, sorry. We have to pay all of our taxes. We don't get an elderly discount. Sorry for anybody, I do not. I don't get it either, do we? Okay, well, that's why we get discount. Yes, that's what I mean by discount. My husband and I pay full, although we homeschool every month. So I mean, for lack of better words, we need people that are going to stir the economy. And if you want to draw in a younger generation, yes, we need parks and such, but outside of that, like you said, businesses.
I have a question for you. I just have a question.
Real quick, you're asking about how Snellville came to be. The city bought the property and they partnered with a private company to develop that. They sat down with those developers over months, coming up with a plan. Monroe's redevelopment was actually kicked off by a private developer buying stuff, renovating it himself. And then the city saw the benefits of it and became more involved. So a lot of this stuff has been kicked off by public-private partnerships.
So how do we make that happen here?
I just want to ask you.
I don't know about that. How about the food court? Keep it small.
Do you prefer a house that has a big yard and take care of, or would you rather have something that's smaller, like a townhome or a cottage, or that's not, and I know you've got kids probably, and so you want room for them, but I'm just talking about your generation, the ones that don't have kids, and the ones that don't, because I hear that a lot.
I do, I don't believe
The
it.
younger generation, we don't want responsibility. Don't point at me. No, I'm not talking to you. It's like, but you're not that generation. But they don't want house, they don't want a yard, so they don't want, they want a vault living place. They don't want all that stuff. And this has been going on for a while here in Walton County. We've been hearing this. We've had summits on it.
You don't know where that is.
So
You make a town accommodate something that most of the people don't want, you go move where that is.
If I wanted to live in Lawrenceville, I'll leave it in Lawrenceville.
Live in a town. We actually own some land. Because we came from Sugar Hill, we did have some land there. We moved during COVID. My oldest son, he was born premature, and we thought it was time for us to get out of where we were to be able to provide more for him. Again, we moved from Miami to provide more for them here in Georgia. We moved from Beaufort to Sugar Hill, from Sugar Hill here. We planted our roots here because we believe this is the town where we can grow and we can help others grow and develop. But how can we stir the economy? She said,
But you want land.
Yes, I just want to, when she said that she wanted to sell, my biggest fear was that another huge company is gonna come and build another 100 homes. What is that gonna do for land? What is that gonna do for our roads and then the sidewalks? Yeah, there's gonna be sidewalks there, but then what about everybody else? Where in our entire town? I was just talking to him, and if any of you have City of Lawrenceville gas and you're on auto pay, there's a percentage, a small bit that gets rounded up. Yes. He asked me, he goes, why don't you just ask them what they're gonna do with it? And I know what they do already. They donate it to people that are in need. What is in need then? Why can't we ask for that percentage to be given back to our towns? Because, for example, AT&T.
You can't opt out of that.
You can, but you have to pay it every month on time. And I'm sorry, but I have
No, but you told them I did it. The gas cut off.
Oh, I went on that and off down.
I just cut the gas off.
So I think what she was getting at though is on average,
people in the younger generation aren't interested in having a large house, large single family lot, like cutting grass. It is, it's statistically.
That's not the government is force feeding down our throats.
I know. One house.
But if you think about it, in these rental communities, the reason why they succeed is because they have.
Gen X, I don't know.
And mold
But every
yards,
millennium.
they take care of the backyards because they put a fence up. Before they won't mention what I was there. So I understood, yes, I understand the different things, but not enough, obviously, just enough to know what they can and can't do and what they can and get away with. And
I
that's.
think the point though is in any city, if you are only offering one thing, you create a monoculture. And that monoculture stagnates and you end up, any monoculture isn't, it is unsustainable long-term, right? Because to the point of, people aging out here, and then it's so, we're like, oh, the young people don't want to have to keep up with the yard or whatever. Same thing happens at a certain point when you're old enough, you're not even not interested in cutting your grass, but you can't cut your grass.
You can't afford to pay for somebody to do
And
it.
so then if we think about too, like, if we are focusing only on single family large lot homes for the future, which is the predominance of what you have here already. But if we focus on every bit of land that's left here becoming that, and you also want your downtown or other areas to be thriving, it takes, the amount of money that a wealthy person who lives in an estate house pays more so than somebody who lives in a smaller house is not exponentially greater, right? They still eat one dinner, they still eat one lunch, and so ultimately you guys have to decide, and your comp plan has some guidance about this too, but if you are wanting to have the downtown that is a special place and other things like that, then you may need more people to make that happen. But more people, and what I've definitely heard loud and clear is no one's wanting more people in the form of apartment complexes, like standard suburban apartment complexes. I've heard that there is, based on, and we've all seen it together, there's not a clear consensus on this, on that there is, but on whether or not you want to allow other smaller types of housing in the city in the future. And so one of the things that I was encouraging in the last meeting was the focus to be on price per square foot, not total cost of a unit. Because you can have a really, really bad 20,000 square foot house. That's very expensive because it's 20,000 square feet of bad stuff and bad materials, and it's gonna fall down, and you've accomplished one goal of the big expensive thing, but you haven't actually accomplished your goal of having a lasting community moving forward. So we got to struggle through that as we go through this. To me, it doesn't matter. I'm sharing, bringing this back up, and it may feel like I'm pushing on it. I'm bringing it back up because I know what is happening around the country. I know what's happening around the region, and I want you guys to make sure y'all are making decisions based on all these facts rather than just sort of the general rules of thumb. So pass it around.
Something just came to me that from an earlier conversation, and I wanted to bring it up about speed bumps, whatever you call them. Is there what you're doing? Is there certain places like residential that qualify for that, or?
No, in the zoning ordinance, we don't deal with speed bumps.
The what?
That's not a zoning thing, that's an engineering standard. You're in public works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because some people are complaining that the speeders in these side streets is so bad that it's dangerous to walk. That's why the sidewalk deal is so big. That's something that somebody needs to discuss, whether if it's commercial or residential or whatever, that you're going to make up these, codes, that we need something that would allow those things to be put on streets.
It's been discussed a lot, but our
Another
ordinance
careful.
doesn't allow, you have to be so many feet from this, that, and the other. So, for example, Covington cannot have speed bumps, and they need speed bumps because of the logistics of those.
Near my house.
I don't want them near my house either.
Yeah.
City of Loganville already has a speed bump policy. It is done upon the request of the residents. All they have to do is contact the city, request a study. We do a study. It has to make a threshold of, I believe it's 85% of the drivers doing greater than 10 or 15 miles over the speed limit to qualify for it.
And is the speed bump the only Band-Aid that you can do? Or are there other
Why don't we do speed dips? Have you ever driven through a speed dip?
Not intentional.
We'll do it for once if you're above the speed limit. And you don't get the thud as they go over.
Sparks flying.
Speed bump is a good word for pothole.
Well, no, actually, where I grew up, we had speed dips. They literally cut in the road, the dip. And you fly down that road, well, you didn't go airborne, so it wasn't any fun. You go down, you didn't do it but once.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, I'm not gonna touch the speed bump conversation, but, we talked about the need for multi-unit dwellings, which I agree with. I have opinions on where and what kind and all that, but I agree with that in theory. But again, if we don't have the money coming in, and we'll get more money through that, and we can work with the developers in our zoning laws to insist that they put the path in. But right now, like, that connectivity has got to be forefront. Like, it's got to be right in there, or we're gonna not incent businesses to come because it's too hard to get through the traffic.
Yeah.
So that's my only 2 cents.
I have a question for Melanie.
For Melanie?
Melanie, you got a question?
You
got a question.
Send the mic around.
Wake up, Melanie.
Melanie, wake up.
Is it related to this
I'm listening.
Today we were talking about,
infill?
yeah, well, this, historical house.
Is what now?
Historical house is part of it. We have to figure that out as far as are there going to be standards regarding that? And, I'm not sure exactly how it's set up in Georgia. If you're not designated on the historic register or whatnot. So.
Because she is.
I am, and well, like the lady said over here, I got your name again. Kim. I don't think anybody actually would want their house to be on it, because to be on it, you would have to go in, gut it, put it back like it was originally, everything. I proposed to the Historical Society that Loganville creates their own historical type designation.
Okay.
But you
That's
can
what he
keep
was
your
talking about.
house just like it is. You don't have to go and do it everything, but we recognize it as is Dean King's that was the Loganville International Airport, that this property is this and this property is that. So it's something I would like to do. And again, I've said that we have a president of the Historical Society, and as long as she wants to be the president of the Historical Society, she will be, because I'm not that person to push somebody out. But if there's ever a turnover, they already know that I want to do it. This is something I've looked at, and having little placards made. And you can say, hey, look, my house has historical nature. This is what happened here. We'll do the research, we'll do it.
They do that in Charleston. It's kind of cool.
But it's not gonna hold you to those standards that would prevent you from being able to sell houses or stuff with it. But,
I mean, I just wanted to understand.
right, but as far as that, no, and I don't think that that's something that.
You've got one in the back here.
Okay.
Just like quick on the infill, when I first said no on your question, is there anything that's off limits? I would say the churches on Main Street and then these rock buildings.
You mean the Baptist and the Methodist, not the storefront churches, right?
Okay, because I was gonna say
Just wanna make sure
that's
that's
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, these buildings have never been in play. They're off limits.
Good.
Yeah, she mentioned, and y'all had mentioned that there's a larger population of younger adults that are coming in to buy housing now. don't want to have the responsibility of land. What about zero lot lines? What about permissions for certain subdivisions as opposed to doing, townhouses or even, building, high rises, and such? Why not zero lot lines?
You have some of those.
What does that mean to you?
So that means that the homes are a lot closer.
Yeah.
So that means that a lot of the power lines, from my understanding, are underground. And that means you gotta live in a subdivision to a degree.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure, it's somewhat similar in my, I guess what I think to.
I was just getting clarification on what, because it just means different things in different places, so.
Okay,
I understand.
yeah,
what you're saying. Yeah.
So if I didn't have to buy a townhouse, and that's what as a real estate agent, doing was, a lot of people didn't want townhouses because they're like, I can hear my neighbor fighting. And although they are required to have like a certain, or whatever, to go ahead and make sure the noise doesn't down out, you still hear your neighbor.
Well, that's one thing we talked about this morning is the quality of what's going up, not just because some of the houses, as close as they're built together now too, it's the same thing and depending on your neighbor. But if you have a better quality of building, then you won't have that no matter what.
So that actually, did not allow or permit any properties that have vinyl siding because it was supposed to be,
Noisier.
It's not, it wasn't like a higher end building or something like that. That's how they ran it.
It's also a farmhouse.
Yeah.
Well, there's a,
For the city, the vinyl housing is a rule from our fire. Because they had, this fire, one of the chambers, there's always fire.
Oh, yeah, by the way,
One fire.
we're over time.
Yeah, I've been to work all day.
We won't talk about you if you have to.
It's been awesome though. I
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed it.
Thank
Thank
y'all
you.
for coming.
Yeah.
So another thought about that, when it comes to, smaller lots, to your point about the, townhouse and, like, there are trade-offs, right? Like we figured out in the kickoff presentation a few weeks ago, that only 2 people in the room had never lived in an apartment, right? And there's always somebody stalking around above you, the broom and doing, those things. And then there's, you hear people in a townhouse and, you live on a small lot. You still hear your neighbor, they're in the backyard, you smell their weird barbecue thing that they're making. They like weird food or something, So every situation short of living on a farm, on like copper acreage is, you run into people and in each case, the more friction you have. So, like those moments, it has an impact on the price of it. Right. And so you hear that that you can hear your neighbor, therefore, an apartment costs less than a farm, and a townhouse costs less than a detached single family house and all of those things. And so it's, giving you those different options for different preferences, different stages of life. And, to your point, there are people who break every rule of the average, so there are some young people who would love to live on a farm these days. And then there are those who don't want to live on a farm, but they still want to grow their collards or whatever. And so on their tiny little apartment balcony, they've got a little planter box and they're like, oh, look, I grew, here's a carrot. I'm so excited. And, and their harvest is just smaller, right? And so some things, some preferences change and some stay the same, but I think what we've got to do in every community we work in, you can imagine this isn't the first time I've had this discussion, right? It's always the same in every single place we work. Except for there are a few places where they're super, super committed to solving their housing crisis. And they're like, what if we allowed our single family houses to in a 1970s subdivision to turn into multifamily, and they can split them up into a fourplex or a duplex, or that's very rare, but I'm just telling you that but most of the time it's, we moved here because we wanted to be a small town. And we don't want it to change. That's why I got a kick out of seeing that photograph. Right?
Talk about change.
Right. And so, I usually do the old, okay, show of hands, raise your hand if you lived here for 5 years and put your hand down if, 10. 20. And then we all turn to the person who's last with their hand up and say, thank you for letting me come to town. Right? Because it's a normal human thing. Like when we arrive, we take this mental snapshot of what the place is and should always be. Now, that wasn't the normal human thing for most of human habitation of cities and towns together. People wanted growth and they wanted things to happen because all of a sudden it was easier for them to stay alive. Right? Now we have running water. Hallelujah. Now we have sewage. Hallelujah. Now we've got whatever the case may be. And we're less and less trying to stay alive. And now we're starting to think about thriving and think about quality of life. And now we're excited because we've got the opera house and we got the moving picture house and we got all of these things. And so then, funny enough, we come full circle and now people are wanting to, grow things again and even on their apartment balcony and they want to get their hands in the dirt and feel at one with this holistic approach to things and making sourdough in their apartments and all the things, So times change, but people don't change that much. But we'll walk through this together. Don't get anxious, but I definitely don't recommend a one size fits all strategy for nearly anything. So it's nuance, and that's the hard part about zoning. And that's what zoning for so long has given us places that all look about the same because they were written in a way that was just trying to normalize and make it simple to describe the place. And unfortunately, we lost our way during that time. So we'll try to take it back together in a way that's got something for everyone. Everyone's excited. How neat. Dinner. Thank y'all.